Here at Kindred Presents, we're all about the preservation of culture, the preservation of black music, of our culture, whether it be through art, through visual art, through books, through television, movies, and of course, what we love most, our music. And we thank you again for coming out tonight. And without further ado, of course,
let's get the show started because the show needs to be started up. Hey. And without further ado, we would like to bring out our very first guest. As I said earlier, he is a Grammy Award nominee as well as a Grammy Award winner. He has put out some amazing music, some that you may know, some that you may not know, and some that you didn't know that you already knew. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we want to bring to you the spectacular Mr. Van Hunt.
Y'all give it up. Give it up. Philly welcome. Yes, indeed. Hey.
Boy, you're looking slick. You're looking slick. Have a seat, Brother Van.
Y'all sound great, brother.
Thank you so much.
Y'all give it up for our band, these beautiful black men behind us. Actually play for Kindred, the family soul.
Who gave me the small chair, though? Why y'all give me the small chair?
We had to give you the small chair, because we the bigger people. We
a little heavier than you, man.
We apologize, brother. The next time you come, we're bringing you a couch out here.
We need a little more support.
But as we started the program, right backstage, I was telling Van, I knew that Van didn't really remember me personally from where we go way back to, because this industry is a thing that you constantly rerun into individuals that you've run into for many, many years. And I met Van Hunt, I believe, in around like 1995. I moved to Atlanta to write songs and get down with LaFace Records and stuff, and there was these guys, Thad and Victor, who had a studio down in Atlanta.
Yeah.
They brought me and my partner down to Atlanta to work in their studio, and Van was the engineer in 1995.
Wow.
Before he was an artist,
Yeah.
before he was writing all his great songs and all those different things, and he was a really nice guy and really helped us a lot. And then here we are 20-something odd years later. Now he's a huge superstar and, making his music, and we're all doing the same things.
But I think that's a good place to start.
Okay.
Because really in the beginning of the interview, I definitely wanted to start with telling the fact that you really started out in production and writing.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to know if being a solo artist was always in the plan, or how did that end up happening?
Well, I mean, as an engineer, I had to be nice to them because I didn't know what I was doing. And they were all very patient with me. But that's where it all started. I was just into sounds, trying to get sounds out of my head. And so I didn't know where that was going to wind up. I definitely didn't think it would wind up with me singing, because that was the one thing I didn't really do.
You definitely didn't seem like a singer then. I don't know what it was. You were such an introvert. So it seemed like.
Super shy. So I'm the only person in my family who really, sings in public and, do all that. So I never thought it would be that. I thought it would be more a songwriter, maybe a musician or something.
And who really kind of pushed you out there into the light? I mean, I know that, you've written songs for a great many artists. Mm-hmm. And I'll even go back to that and allow you to kind of marinate on that journey for a moment.
Sure.
And go back even before and say, you've been able to write and produce for different kinds of artists. Mm-hmm. How are you able to kind of get into their energy and really help them to pull out the story you want to tell with people who are so different?
Sure. I mean, working with artists is something I've always done. So I enjoy that. And it's probably it's most natural for me to do. I do that still today. That, a lot of artists that people don't even know that I work with. I'm the guy that gets that midnight call. It's like, can you talk him out of a tree? Because he done lost everything. He's talking about quitting. And so, I got to go out and talk somebody back into the studio to finish a record and walk them through the process. I enjoy that part of it. But I don't know what the question was, so.
It was more so, like, how do you go about working with so many different artists?
Sure.
And still bringing yourself to the table? Like, how are you able to kind of pull out who they are and still present
Give them you.
your art?
Yeah, for the real artists, and I've had the pleasure of working with what anybody would call real artists. Mm-hmm. They're crazy. There's no problem pulling them out. You got to push them back in sometimes.
Do the turtle on them.
And so, you become the real estate agent, the car salesman, and, babysitter. And it's a lot of things to try and keep them on track. So you get inside their head pretty easily. Yeah.
So you're kind of an expert in the human condition a little bit. You know how to talk to people.
That's the one thing I know best. Probably is how to pull something out of somebody.
Doing the research for you, I realized that also around that time that I actually met you, that you were in Morehouse.
Yeah.
Because this is true. I didn't realize you were at Morehouse. My son goes to Morehouse now.
Yeah.
What was it about Morehouse that made you decide that you did not belong there and you wanted to get full-fledged into the music? Because from what I understand, you didn't finish.
No. I barely started.
Wow. But you did go.
Yeah, first my SATs.
Son, wherever you are.
Yeah. Don't listen.
Don't play with me, you hear? I'm not Van's mama, I'm your mama. Yeah?
Stop. Let the
Sorry.
man speak.
That's all right. First of all, my SATs were atrocious. I had an atrocious score on the SAT. So my mom was like, well, if you're gonna go to college, you gotta write these essays. So I wrote an essay, and 3 schools, Morehouse being one of them, were like, we love this essay, come be in school. So I didn't want to, but my mom made me. I went to Morehouse, and it was great because I went to the piano room every day. I flunked all the classes, but the pianist in the glee club, he was like, dude, you're doing something that's really, really good. Keep going. And so I said, well, what the hell? And I moved to the next phase, which was hip hop was becoming popular in Atlanta at that time. And I just dove into the demo scene. That's where I met Victor Reed and Thad Edwards. And they pushed me into production. And,
wow, that's amazing. And now Dallas Austin is credited as taking you to Capitol Records for your first record deal and working in the Atlanta scene with so many artists and producers during the late 90s. How did you spark the friendship with him?
Well,
was that just some natural, being around?
Yeah, he was one of the first people I approached with my demos. And I would send my demos out everywhere. Even after I got a record deal, I'd run into record company people and they'd be like, man, I had your demo way back. And so he was just one of the people, and he was like, I don't think the market is ready for what you're doing right now. But maybe you can work with this artist, that artist. That's how I met Joy Gilliam.
Of course.
So he put me in the
We
studio
love
with
Joy.
her. And I met Raphael and Sadiq, and we started working. And then one day, Dallas just called and said, I think the market's ready for you. And so I gave him Dust for my first record.
Oh, yes.
And he went and got the record deal.
Dust?
And the market was most definitely ready because, you ended up with a Grammy nomination.
Yeah.
And so that's an amazing thing. But I want to talk to you about that category because it didn't always exist.
Sure.
It was a category called Urban Alternative R&B.
Yeah.
What does that even mean to you? And do you really think that was indicative of what you were trying to do at the time?
Well, man, I don't know if I should reveal this to people. I don't know if they know it or not, but can I curse?
Yeah.
Okay. The Grammys is bullshit. It really is. I mean,
They're probably not watching tonight anyway, so it's okay.
It's the highest award you can achieve in our industry, but it's garbage. I mean, it's all political, just like everything else. But if you receive the award, it can open up a lot of other doors for you. And there are some legitimate people in the industry. I had fans that were a part of the Grammy committee, like Jammin' Lewis, Randy Jackson, people who ushered me through that process. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a Grammy. Is my point. So it was Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis and people like that who came up with Urban Alternative as a way to get someone like yourself, me, into the Grammys.
Yep.
Yes, indeed.
And it's still hard to get.
And it's still hard. I mean, I actually kind of took it right back a little bit, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned Randy Jackson from American Idol. He was your manager, or is he your manager now still?
He's kind of a, what do you call it when you move?
Mentor.
No, he is my mentor. Thank you, Renee. But it's something else. What's the big dog at the company who's
CEO?
He's an executive over every chairman. He's kind of a chairman.
He's the chairman.
He's the chairman of Van.
Okay. All right, I got that.
Yeah.
I got that. How did you and his relationship come together?
Oh, so she asked me earlier how was I pushed into singing. It was through working with Deion Ferris.
Always gonna get to that too.
Yeah, I had to sit with her through every single vocal. Otherwise, she wouldn't finish the vocals. So eventually, I just figured out how she was putting her vocals together. And Randy was her A&R person at Columbia.
Okay.
So he was the one who gave her Hopeless and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Well, Deion Ferris, some of you guys remember Deion Ferris, correct, from the Love Jones soundtrack? Well, Van is the co-writer of the huge song of hers called Hopeless, like a penny with a hole in it. You remember that? So you knew Van before you knew Van. Yeah, that's right. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned the thing about the Grammys, but you know, as a Grammy Award winner and nominee, do you feel like that success of that matches, you know, where you are as an artist?
Sure. I mean, like I said, it is the highest award you can achieve in our industry. So I'm grateful to have it, and I think it represents, you know, the work I've done. But I'm anxious to see something like this, what you guys have, where somebody can come up and talk as well as present the music, because I think it's always been two sides to the industry.
I think it's, you know, one of the things I would love you to speak on is the fact that, you know, we all kind of came up somewhat in the heyday of artists getting on record labels and being able to commune with so many different types of minds, producers, writers, mixers, executives, and that community was vast.
Yes.
But so many of us, I can say we've had over 100 guests, and almost more than half, maybe 2/3 of them have all had a very similar story in having this great support system and these many people that come together to push their career forward, but that also eventually that system kind of kicks back and stifles their career in the same way.
Sure.
And you had an album that sat shelved for 10 years almost, but still came out. And I'm so interested in this story because many of the people who come to this show, you guys are aware, record companies can come sometimes be assholes and stuff happens and you don't get your album out. But to revisit it and to allow it to come out so many years later, was that something that you championed, or is that something that they just decided to do, and were you happy about it?
Well, it started with Nicholas Payton, the trumpeter. He wrote a blog about putting Popular but with Voodoo, D'Angelo's Voodoo. And he was like, I think Popular is just as good as Voodoo. And that kind of started a whole thing, conversation. So then I met Jason Moran, pianist. He was on Blue Note. And Nicholas Payton had been on Blue Note. They both cited Popular, along with Robert Glasper, as a record that they looked at as a bridge between where they were and where the old Blue Note records was. And they wondered why it wasn't out. That started the conversation. I called the label. It's like, you know, all you guys have to do is put it out electronically now. You don't have to print up shit.
Just do it.
It's free, you know, and you can put out an old record on an artist that's still living for once.
I love that when the record was shelved, as far as I understand, that you put out a project called Use in Case of Emergency as what you did instead of that record. I thought that shit was genius. I mean, tell me about that.
Well, that's exactly, it was just a response, you know, to them. And Randy wanted me to do a piano record. So while I was working on that piano record, I did the Use in Case of Emergency. Yeah, and then I never really...
Break glass.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
And I think also, too, it speaks to the fact that as artists, we understand what's amazing. You would think they would ask us a little bit more often what's good because we know what's good. And I think it's important to have discussions, like you said, about music and about musicians and what we view as, you know, our influences, so that people begin to get a language around, you know, what works and what pushes things forward and what is innovative. I'm curious to know what you think is innovative right now.
A particular artist?
Artist, genre, what you liking right at this moment?
You know, to be honest, like, this is what's innovative, like the interaction between what's happening on stage and the audience.
What'd you say, Van? I didn't hear you.
We can use this clip,
I'm sorry,
right?
can you repeat that? No, okay.
But it totally is. I mean, this is the new age. This is why I came back to touring. I wanted to make the audience partly responsible for the evening, you know what I mean? So that they could engage in a way that made it more robust,
That's awesome. Yeah. As an artist, whose opinion do you value most in your creative process?
Right now, probably it's a tie between my tour manager, my mom, and my ex-girlfriend.
Your ex-girlfriend?
Yeah.
You don't have a current girlfriend then.
Well, first of all, ex-girlfriends give great perspective.
Yeah.
That's probably the best place you can go to learn about yourself. I made a few calls before I married you.
To your ex-girlfriend?
To your ex-girlfriend.
You ain't talking about ex-girlfriend.
I know everything.
I'm about to call somebody right now.
No. I think, you mentioned that, that's part of the reason why you're touring again. You took a good long break from touring.
Yeah.
And why?
Because I could, and I got tired of putting out effort and not seeing the industry respond to it in any healthy way. It was demoralizing, to put your all into a record and have, some white dude tell you about what's wrong with it and why it won't connect with your people. Yeah. Like, I'd had enough of that shit, to be honest.
My husband's about to start moaning and crying.
Oh, okay.
Moaning and
I'm going to give you a big hug when this thing is over with.
My husband's over there about to go,
I know there was a reason I like Van Hunt.
Come on, Pop.
Van, have you been to Philly often?
Oh, yeah.
Who are your favorite Philadelphia artists, past, present, whatever?
Well,
don't tell him who to say. Let that man say who he feels and thinks.
Well, I have no idea. This guy actually was born in Jamaica, but to me, his sound is totally Philadelphia, and that's Tom Bell, the producer. But
he goes into Tom Bell, the producer, first. This is a real musician right here. And then he didn't say Gamblin' Huff. He said Tom Bell.
But wait, the guy who certified me as a singer, and I felt like I was gonna get serious about singing after he came to my show, and he said, "Man, you can do this," and that was Bilal.
Look at the eighth wonder of the world just inspiring other people. Because he is like the eighth wonder of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the things that I
can see y'all working together. Have y'all worked together, though?
We've talked more than we've worked, you know what I mean? Bilal.
But talking to Bilal is good, too.
Yeah.
He's a very interesting person.
Yeah. I think I would definitely love to see that project, though. I'm going to put my vote in for that as well.
Yeah.
At least a song.
I think
at least a song.
Black music in general has these kind of common threads. Mm-hmm. And I've seen, based on things that I read when I was, doing a little research for the interview, was that you really kind of toured and performed with a kind of vastly different group of artists.
Sure.
Some of the kind of big pop, hip hop artists, as well as some of the more cutting edge artists.
Yeah.
What do you think are the elements of your music that are able to just really be paired with all of that? Now, I have my opinion, but I'm curious to know yours.
Well, because I'm very rhythmic. Everything starts with the rhythm for me. So it was hard for me to recognize the differences between rock and roll, blues, funk. It was hard. I didn't really even hear it. Muddy Waters is the Ohio Players to me. But Bo Diddley, that to me is it's like an African beat, and that's what I hear. So when people start talking to me about differences, I don't even recognize it. I can feel it. You know what I mean? It's all the same to me. It's rhythm.
Yeah, we're on the same page about that.
Yeah.
The truth is that what we have flowing through our veins, what we hear, at its core, is the same thing.
Yeah.
So when you see us perform, you see us write, you see us sing, you're really seeing the same thing. You're seeing, the diaspora is the diaspora. We're just all branches on the same trunk. So anyhow, I know that people are very excited because they haven't seen you in a while, and I am very excited. And I know why they're here. And we would be very honored if you would bless us with a couple of songs.
I would love to, especially with this band.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to ask the band to rejoin us, to come on up and help us out with your selections as well. Yeah. We want you to tell the people the latest project and where they can find you if they're looking for Van Hunt.
Well, the latest project is always evolving. But if you go to vanhunt.com, you can find whatever I'm doing on there. Yes, please visit. Leave a message, some flowers.
With a card.
Yeah.
We know where to find the flowers.
Yeah.
Well, Philadelphia, we're asking you to give a great, great welcome once again as my husband and I exit the stage and give you all the opportunity to hear this fantastic artist and this prolific producer and writer.
Experience.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Van Hunt.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, yeah. All right. Here we go. Y'all know the band, right?
Position to be the one that stands out among the millions. Just another face in the crowd, fighting for the love of the one that you dream about. If you could only scream it loud enough for her to hear you, feel no one will know the name. There's nothing you could claim that would ever bring you fame. You take a look at just who you are and what sets you apart. How can you be popular? Even though your friends are really friends, even though they share your convictions, it would be nice to be remembered in the end as more than just another face in the crowd, fighting for position to be the one that stands out among the millions. Just another face in the crowd, fighting for the love of the one that you dream about. You could only scream it loud enough for her to hear you, feel that no one would notice you. You only do what others do. Your sound depends on what they're into. You could always imitate the art. You could even dress the part. But how can you be popular? Even though your friends are really friends, even though they share your convictions, it would be nice to be remembered in the end as more than just another face in the crowd, fighting for position to be the one that stands out among the millions. Just another face in the crowd, fighting for the love of the one that you dream about. If you could only scream it loud enough for her to hear. It is now the future. Compliments of technology, anyone can shine for 15 minutes. Musicians like these need at least 30. I'm big in Japan, not a draw in Liverpool. But you know, it really all depends on who you ask and how much they know. But what's real is this. I see you on the computer, you looking like a Jaybird with drawers on. Now you the HHIC, just another face in the crowd, fighting for position to be the one that stands out among the millions. Just another face in the crowd, fighting for the love of the one that you dream about. If you could only scream it loud enough. Thank you. This next one we're gonna do is from my first record. It's called Down Here in Hell with You. I want to thank Kindred for having me, and thank you all for your time. Is it too early for y'all to snap your fingers? I really love it when we make mistakes, because once again it gives me a reason to complain. I love the battle lines we draw and cross through the mud. I really love it when we fight, standing on the verge of breaking up or making love. What would I do if we were perfect? Where would I go for disappointment? Love without pain would leave me wondering why I stayed. I think I'm saving myself, but with nothing to complain about up in heaven, what would I do? I think I'm saving myself, but I really want to work it out down here in hell with you. Wanna make you feel the fire, wanna burn you with my bad days. Ooh, I wanna be unsatisfied so you can feel the heat coming from it, lady, lady, lady. Yeah, baby. What would I do if we were perfect? Where would I go for disappointment? Words without hate would leave me nothing left to say. I think I'm saving myself, but with nothing to complain about up in heaven, what would I do? Ooh, saving myself, but I really want to work it out down here in hell with you. I think I'm saving myself, ooh, but with nothing to complain about up in heaven, what would I do? Saving myself, really want to work it out down here in hell. I think I'm saving myself, ooh, with nothing to complain about up in heaven, what would I do? Saving myself, but I really want to work it out down here in hell with you. 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 Just the bass and drums, baby. Here in hell with you. Where y'all at, Philly? Here in hell with you. Here in hell with you. for me tonight. Here in hell with you. Can I give a hand for the band? Hand for the band. Here in hell with you. Down 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 here in hell with you. With you. I hear you clapping your hands. I hear you clapping your hands. Hear you clapping your hands. I hear you clapping your hands. I hear you clapping your hands. Clapping your hands. Here in hell with you. Here in hell with you. With you. Here in hell with you. Here in hell with you. Good night, y'all. Thank you.
Getting all in there, huh?
Got them all in. Got them all in.
You know that groove is tight when it get all
Y'all give it up for Van Hunt. Give it up.
down
What
here.
would I do if we were perfect, baby? Where would I go? Sugar, tell me now. What would I do? What would I do? Baby, I love to sing other people's songs when they on the show. That's my shit, girl. That's for sure. I take a little bit just for myself.
Yeah.
'Cause it feels good. Man, I really love that first song too, man. Oh my goodness
So
gracious.
funky.
Just the face in the crowd fighting for position.